Good morning, good morning. My name is Rosie Thompson, and I am the owner of RKT-LIFE Purpose Coaching. I come to you this morning just to greet you on this beautiful Wednesday morning. Seems like the week is already gone by. When we have those extended holidays, it does seem like a day behind or some moments behind, but better here than anywhere else. And so again, I am Rosie Thompson, and I'm the owner of RKT-LIFE Purpose Coaching. I coach the female gender, teens, youth, women of all ages, and I do personal one-on-one sessions as well as group sessions. I also do mentoring, and I'm also a speaker. I am a content creator. I'm a self-published author. I do a number of things, and if you visit my website, which is tagged here on this live, you'll be able to see what services I do offer. And those coaching and mentoring services, they are offered virtual services, Zoom, via telephone. I do make it convenient, so therefore within the United States, within the United States only. I don't do anything as far as in foreign countries as far as coaching service and mentoring. I also will go on site. Perhaps you have a large or a small group where you guys meet. I also do book clubs, interviews, podcasts. So again, go on my website and you'll get a little bit more familiar about me and the services that I do offer. And if you have any questions, any comments, feedback, you can direct them through the website. At the top or the bottom of that website, there is a location where you can leave me a message. During this live, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please don't hesitate to speak. A closed mouth will never get fed. And so I thank you all for tuning in, those who are tuning in and will tune in, and those who will join later or maybe watch the live later. However, I do hope that I say something to you during this live that's going to help encourage you, uplift you, and motivate you to find your voice. As you see, the title of this live is How You Living? How are you living? You know, some people had words of encouragement as they have grown up from birth up until even now. And that's one of the 5 love languages, which is words of affirmation. And so they had a good outlook, aspect of what words of encouragement look like. But everyone did not have that. Some people grew up in households or in situations even outside the household where they were told they would never amount to anything, or they were told things that did not align with who they were born and gifted to be. And so when we are told things like that, when I say we, doesn't necessarily mean me, but guess what? I'm sure that some of us at some point in some time have all been affected by words of someone that loved us, or someone that we admired, or someone that was close to us, or just what have you. And it may be someone that you really didn't take time with or didn't know. Maybe it was someone, a teacher, someone who influenced you, because I'm gonna tell you, not every teacher has your best interest at heart, because number one, that may not be their calling where they're supposed to be, or perhaps they've become jaded. Perhaps it was a peer, someone that you went to school with, a class bully or a school bully. I mean, just whatever, what have you. Maybe it's a relationship you're in, okay? Because maybe it's a marriage you're in, a situation you're involved in. You know, we never know where words of affirmation and even words of discouragement can come from. But I tell you what, no matter where you're at, it can always happen. So I want to talk to those today who have not had such a good influence when it comes to words that have been spoken on them. Now, I can remember, if I apply this to my life, growing up, there would be things that would be said by individuals in the moment. And in the moment when they were spoken, I didn't gain clarity. I would walk away from that situation thinking, what did they mean by that? What were they really trying to say? And because I didn't clarify it in the moment, those words became life. It was spoken life over me. And even though I did not come into agreement with it, I never addressed it. I never dealt with it. And this was some years ago. But that's why today, if something is said and spoken to me that I don't necessarily understand what they're fully trying to say, or perhaps I discern that there is something subliminally that is trying to be said and spoken. Because sometimes people are not always clear about what they're saying or what they desire to say. And that can even be you. Sometimes maybe your communication is not clear to where you're not speaking, to where you don't have an understanding. So not only can other people do these things to us, we can even do them to ourselves, because words, they do hold life. So I want you to make sure that you kind of understand throughout this video, this live here, is the power in words, the meaning behind words, the message in words, okay? In statements, in a sentence, and whatever. And so because of a lack of understanding, what type of message have you allowed to form and take shape in your life is the premises of this video, seriously. And so without an understanding, you don't know the life that you're living was something that was set up and designed perhaps against you or for you, and it didn't align with the purpose in which you were born to fulfill. And so before you keep moving forward and not understanding words that are spoken over you, and even words that may come from you yourself, what they are creating, what they're forming, and actually putting into motion how you live out your life, how you behave, how you act, how you think, how you operate, and how you move. Okay, so we're saying that sometimes, again, you will live up to the words of others without even knowing it, because of something that has been spoken over you or said to you. And instead of you asking for clarification or asking for more depth, more meaning, for them to break that down and perhaps rephrase that, reword that to where you do get an understanding. And once you do have that understanding, if it's something that you do not agree with, if it's something that you know does not and will not benefit you in your life, you don't have to accept that. And what do you mean by, when you may say, what do you mean by you don't have to accept that? Well, whoever spoke it, number one, you can correct them. Now listen, the way we handle things and handle situations and people, it needs to be in love and intact, no matter how they try to handle you nor treat you. You're not responsible for what they do, what they say, how they behave, but you are solely responsible. And you want to become responsible in your actions, in your motives, and how you speak and behave towards people. So in your response, which you do have a right to, you can merely say, you know what, that's not me. That doesn't fit my purpose. That doesn't fit the plan and the will of God for me in my life. That doesn't fit my goals. You know, and maybe it'll lead into a further discussion, but nonetheless, you need to get an understanding, because without an understanding, we can become destroyed. There's a lack of knowledge that we don't have when we don't get that understanding. So with that being said, when you don't agree with something that has been spoken over you, that has been said to you, and it doesn't align with you, if you don't do something with that, then you've accepted that, you've embraced that, you've allowed that to become sort of a forecast over your life to send you in a direction. If it doesn't align with what you know your purpose is, or doesn't even sound right, you've aligned that to forecast your future. And so to rebuttal that, and when I say rebuttal it, renounce it, denounce it, reject it. You know, and you have that right to. But be careful what you do reject when it comes to situations regarding you, because sometimes we're even unclear about who we are, our purpose. But see, this is why we have to figure these things out and know them. And personally, I don't believe, other than God and by His Spirit, that there should be anyone that knows more about you than number one, God. And that's how you gain your knowledge and understanding of who you are, and then you. And then you continue to gain this along the way in life as you live life. So when things like this happen, make sure you get an understanding, okay? Years ago, you know, things, you know, I was shared that, you know, you mean, you evil, you this, you that, you know. And sometimes people will speak things and they don't really understand what they're speaking and the message that they are relaying over your life. And then sometimes it may be because you may have done something that may make them feel that way. But even if that be the case, do we want to speak bad over people? Do we want to speak ill over people? Do we want to say things that remind us of perhaps their parent? If you're a parent and you have a child, and maybe that other parent is not in that child's life and you're raising that child, some of the bad qualities of the other parent, should you speak that over that child and say that you're going to be just like your mom, just like your dad, just like so-and-so, and you know it's not a good trait? Absolutely not. And this is what happened and has happened in homes, in families, in relationships. We tend to seek out and search out the bad instead of the good. So even though someone may be displaying something that is not good, that is not honorable, that is not of integrity, do you help them along by telling them that? No, you don't. We don't. So if we can't speak something good, then we should hold our tongue, right? Because there's life and death in our tongues. So even if that means walk away from a situation before we say something that is venomous, before we say something that is poisonous, before we say something that is negative towards them, I believe we should just, search our own hearts in that moment and make sure we don't say anything to add fuel to the flame, to the fire, or speak a negative word over someone. Because people are walking around living right now because of things that have been spoken over them, spoken to them, that they would never amount to anything. You're not going to be nothing. You'll never become successful. You'll never be able to do that because you can't do this. Listen, I believe any of us can do anything we want to. Some of us are naturally gifted at things, but then some of us, we may have to work harder at it. But just because we have to work hard at it doesn't mean we can obtain it. But I do want to caution you. Don't be working hard at something that you know ain't aligned for what you need to be doing in the moment, in the time and season that you need to be doing it in. Because then it is not fruitful work. It is not beneficial. It's not going to get you where you need to go as quickly as you could go. But understand, everything is a process. So it's time that you set up your own expectations for you. What do you expect for your life? Okay? What expectations have you set up for yourself? So with that being said, we can look at goals, okay? If there's something that you're desiring to do or been desiring to do or want to do, what's keeping you from doing it? What's holding you back from doing it? I believe things that are really deeply bedded inside of our spirit, man. There's a difference between head knowledge and your spirit, communication from the Holy Spirit to your spirit. There's a difference in that. But when there's something that's kind of resounding, that just won't leave you, that just gnaws at you, that just comes at you, that you know that you really couldn't, how did I know that? It's not new information to you, but it is new information for you because you've not really applied yourself in it, but it's there. Those are the things that you really, really need to understand and begin to pursue for your life. So when you have something like that within you and you're desiring that, what's keeping you from actually pursuing that and going after it? These are the things that you need to sit down and get a handle on and begin to set goals, aspirations, your desires, become inspired. What's going to motivate you and help you to get there? And so this is why you have to be careful with words, not only from yourself, but even from others. Because if it doesn't align with what you know has been resounding and resonating within you, then you don't need to pick that up. You don't even need to let that take seat and root in your life to where it becomes a thought, it becomes a knowing, it becomes all you think about, what you hear, what you're desiring, because then you're turned away from the desires of God, from what has become your desires, and then you're pursuing something that someone else may desire about you in your life. And those things can be good things, but is it what you need? Is it what you need to be pursuing? And if it's not, you don't need to take account for that. You don't even need to take hold of that. You need to make sure you stick with what you're supposed to be doing in the moment, in the time, and understand that it is a process. But have you begun it? What expectations do you have for you and your life? What do you expect? What are your goals? Where do you want to be tomorrow, next month, next year? What are you doing to get there? Have you set anything in motion and play to help you to get there? What are you doing? Are you listening to the words from the past, from your past, that alienated you from what you're truly called and purposed to do? That made you feel like you'd never be able to do it? That made you think you'd never amount to anything? Remember, how are you living? Are you living up to what you were created to do, to become, to be, to make the difference. And the difference, it has to start in you first before you can create a difference for someone else. And when I say create, assist, to help people, to live in your purpose, be it that being your career, a chosen path for you, even volunteering, okay, being a part of a group in the company of different individuals, to be sharpened, to be assisted, to be encouraged, motivated, inspired, even corrected, because that's part of a process. There's so much that we miss out on because we don't understand what that process looks like, what it's supposed to look like, what part we're to play in it, how does other people play a part in it, the bigger picture. And sometimes the bigger picture, we can't see that unless we get started with where we are right now. You may feel like you don't have enough to get started, but I'm going to tell you, a thought, a word, a deed, an action is enough for you to do whatever you need in that moment, in this right now, September the 6th, 2022 moment, to get you going and get you started. If you think back over your life and you begin to see certain things that have been repeated over and over and over, scenarios that you can pretty much write the book on. You can tell the story before it even begins because you've already lived the outcome. If we've been so good about understanding some of the wrong things that we've done and knowing the outcomes of them, how come we cannot trust the process of what God has better for us, even though we don't know the outcome of those things? But the more we begin to walk in them, the better we'll be able to understand and trust in the process, to know that there's going to be a different outcome than what has been, what we've been used to, what we've been familiar to. And that's the thing about the human species, is that the human being, let me say human being, because when you say species, it's related to animals. We're not animals, we are beings, okay? Living in a body and our souls that is comprised of so much, but we go by so much and off of so much of what we've been used to, accustomed to. But I want to challenge you, the things that we've been used to and accustomed to and familiar with, a lot of that has not been purposeful. A lot of that was never the intent for you, nor for me. But we tend to gravitate towards that because it's what we've known. It's what we've seen. It's what we've lived. But we got to begin to challenge ourselves to understand that, okay, maybe some of it was okay, or maybe even all of it was okay, or maybe none of it was. So what can I do? What can you do to change the course and the events of that? How about you look at the words that you believed? Because those words are life. Remember, they're life and they're seeds. They've been planted. And a seed is to produce and to grow whatever that seed represents. Good, bad, negative, indifferent, joy, peace, love, prosperity, poverty, oppression, depression, wickedness, evilness. You know, I'm kind of throwing out some things that are good and bad. So what seeds have you sown or have been sown into you that you speak, that have been spoken to you, and that constantly comes your way? And that will come your way if you don't change things by what you know you deserve, expectations that you set for your life. It's one thing to desire something, but it's a whole nother thing to get after what you desire, to make a plan, to set some expectations for your life. And listen, don't get in a rush in how to do these things, but number one, understand what needs to be done. And when you begin to understand what needs to be done, I believe, and I've lived this, and it happens over and over. When I do my part, whatever it may be, how small it may be, how big it may appear to be, how out of the ordinary it may feel or seem or even foreign to me, but when I take action to that, when that desire comes that is birthed within me, is it ignited within me, and then I begin to pursue it and get an understanding about it, begin to pray over it and get revelation about it, then it becomes my responsibility to put in my due diligence, the work that is going to be required, no matter what that looks like. When I begin to take action in what is expected, that not only has been aligned already, but then what I feel that I deserve, and I set my heart to those things, situations begin to happen that I have no control over, and really don't need to have control over, because that's the problem. We want to control things, situations, and we control them by always gravitating towards what's familiar to us, what's comfortable for us. But if we take a good look at the comfort we've lied in, that we've accepted, we've not been comfortable at all. We've been very uncomfortable. We've been agitated. We've been irritated. We've been annoyed. It has been very unpleasant, unpleasing. It's been displeasing to us and to others, because we're not truly blossoming as the individuals, as the men, as the women that we could and that we should and we really deserve. So when you take action and set your heart to those expectations without knowing it all, things will begin to unfold. A pathway will become clear. A light will be shone on that pathway to let you know this is it. Even though there may be other pathways, but you're going to know this one here is it. And you're going to begin to be able to gain even further clarity of when to, how to, and when not to. And that's how your life began to be shaped and formed in a new fashion, in a new way, and in newness. And I don't know about you, but I know for me and my life, and for the world that I'm a part of, I'm in it but not of it, there needs to be some newness. We need to gain better perspectives. We need clarity. Because there's so much around that just snuffs out, it wipes out a whole lot of what we could see and should see. But those are distractions. And remember I talked about the light, the path that you will be able to see that'll be unfolded before you. And in this path, what will come up? Opportunities that you've never had before, situations that is needed for the expectations in which you now want to fulfill for your life, people to come and guide you, to help you, to mentor you, to invest in you, to pour into you, to sharpen you, to tell you things that you wouldn't ordinarily know. Training will come up, opportunities to go to school. Listen, coming up in my household, even in my family, as a whole, not just in my household, but outside my family, both sides of the family, I never knew college was an opportunity. College was even, something that I was able to do, that I had a right to go. No matter how I got there, I had a right. I never knew that. I never even had it as an idea. I never even allowed it to rise up in me of an idea to know that college was an option. Now, I don't blame anybody for that, because I know if I would have done much better in my life back then, even in school, middle school, high school, I know at some point a light, a pathway would have been shone on me to let me know, Rosie, have you ever thought about college? Not only that, but what about pursuing this here in college? Because let me tell you, when I began to watch my words, when I began to even watch the words of others that tried to speak certain things over my life, and this was years ago, when I took more notice to the words that were spoken that I even created or some other people created in my life, and began to challenge those words, renounce those words, and speak other words in my life, put other things in my view, in my environment, college became an option. And let me tell you how it became an option for me. See, sometimes we think it got to be the people or it got to be us. I had nothing to do with it. The people starting out had nothing to do with it, because thus far, me and the people, we flopped, if I can just be honest. And it wasn't the people. I'm going to tell you, until we can take responsibility for our lives, especially when you hit a certain age, especially when you've grown, We can't keep using people and situations and even ourselves as excuses of where we want to remain. I'm not saying it's not been challenging. I'm not saying it wasn't difficult. I'm not saying that it was even all right, because a lot of it was not all right. It was never okay. You were mishandled. You were mistreated. You were dogged. You were abused. You were trampled on. You were discarded. You were overlooked. And listen, God knows that. But let me tell you what more God knows is his plan, his purpose for you. So let me get back to how I knew, how it became prevalent and relevant to me in my life, that I knew college was an option growing up all those years, never not knowing that it was. God, you want to know how I became aware of that? He showed me the dream. Yes, he did. He even showed me which college to go to. Yes, he did. And then when I woke up from the dream, I meditated on it. I prayed about it. And I said, okay, God, you showed me this. Now what? And then you want to know what? It wasn't a person. It wasn't myself who told me the next. It was God. You think God's going to give you a dream or give you a vision or give you a word or give you an idea or give you anything and not lead you in that, through it, purposefully? Yes, he will. Because not only did he show me in a dream where I was going. Now, at that time, I had no understanding about college, how it worked, none of that. I'd never been. Matter of fact, my highest completed education was 8th grade. Tried 9th grade 3 years in a row, flopped at it. So when I tell you this was God, it was God. I had no intention of going this way, but obviously I'm going this way in a direction for a reason, being led by a spirit. So not only did he give me a dream and show me where I was going to go, when I woke up and I received, because that was a word from not me, not from nobody, but from God. And when I pursued it, did my portion, then he told me what to do next. You want to know what that next was? I'm going to tell you. He told me to go inquire. And in my inquiry, I learned when the next term was going to be for me to actually enroll. And not only did he tell me that, but he could never remember 8th grade education only. Okay. Then he told me, I want you to go and get assistance, get help, get some tutoring. And I want you to sharpen up in this area, that area, and in this area, all dealing with what they would teach you in school that, remember, I lacked. Now, I knew what I knew, but I didn't know how I knew because I didn't get it from education. That I could have got it free, but it was God. This is how good God is. No matter if you lack something in your life or you didn't get something in your life, if it's purposeful in your life and intended by God, he's going to endow you by his spirit. You're going to have more knowledge than you would have gained even if you would have sat in that classroom and did it the way that you could have done it. But you missed it. You missed out for whatever reasons. We talking about words here. So maybe some words were spoken against you and that's why you wasn't there. But guess what? God ain't counted you out. And you need to stop counting you out. So guess what? I didn't get all that when I could have. And I should have. But God didn't let me go without. So, and all of this was free. Let me let you, and even the education was free in that when I first started out for a vocational. See, there was a process. It started vocational, but then it went to college. Okay. So, got some tutoring. I was doing my part before I actually went in and put in my application to go to this nursing school at a vocation school. So when I went and did that, the right teachers was there. See, God got somebody waiting on you because everybody don't know how to handle you. Everybody don't know how to treat you. Everybody don't know how to love you. Everybody don't know how to be patient with you. I've been on that end too. So listen, this is not about fault finding in the people. What I want you to understand is God got the right person for you. The right situation, circumstance, outcome, everything. So God aligned me with the right teachers and what I needed. And I'm going to speak about one in particular. It was about math, algebra, calculus, whatever it was. Listen, I had no understanding of it. I promise you I didn't. When they got to that in high school, when I was trying 9th grade and didn't complete it, I wasn't present. I wasn't there. But math, for some reason, has always been embedded in me to where I knew what I knew but didn't know how I knew. And I excelled. And just think if I would have went further. Could have been an engineer perhaps. I don't know. But the tutor in the math, when she sat down with me and began to show me steps, algebra, I knew some things, but didn't know how I knew it. And when she looked at me, she said, wow. Because I gave her a little bit of my background, and she knew there was no way I should know what I knew. And she even complimented me and said that I was one of the best students she had ever sat down with. I did my portion. And when she said, you got it, you got this, I can't take you no further, you ready. And then not only that, when I submitted the application, the school will vet you in and vet you out, meaning they want to make sure you're going to do good in that program, rightfully so, because they don't want to set you up for failure. And then too, they want to make sure that they're giving the opportunity to the right ones, the right students. So when it came time for me to go and test, and I'm skipping some of the details, because of time. When I went and took the test, and that's part of their examination of who they're going to let get into this nursing program. They had a math test, they had reading tests, writing tests, all of that. And so with me taking these tests, listen, the math test, it took me into something that I thought come straight from China. And I reference it to China because usually they're very, very, very intelligent, especially in math. I had never seen anything like that was before me on this test that I was taking for this entrance exam to be able to see if I would be chosen to get into that nursing program for that coming up semester. So when that math was coming at me, those questions, my head was like, oh God, get me out of this. This is what I was thinking in the inside, but yet praying, God help me with this. And I would answer it, and obviously I got it right, and it kept leading me into further math, okay, equations that I'd never before seen in my life, calculus, all kind of stuff, okay, never took before in my life, but obviously I kept getting them right. And then when it came to the other test, the reading and the writing, listen, I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. But I'm going to tell you, I got very, very high scores and almost perfect scores in those math. They were in the high 90s. There was no way that Rosie should have come out of there with those scores, but God. And I'm telling you this because, again, it took me receiving the word of God, acknowledging it, and then adhering to it by doing my part. And I did my part. And to me, it wasn't an inconvenience at that time. It was not. It was delight. It was a joy. I was ready for a change. I needed a change. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And God knew I was ready. Until some of us get to that point, some people are just naturally, they're go-getters. They just get out of it. But when you've had certain things that have held you back, even you, that have made you feel like you were stuck in a rut, that you were in captivity, you were in bondage or whatever, it can be challenging to get past that. But even that, no matter where you've been, there is an outcome for you. God has an outcome for you because he gave me. So he's given me so many. When I tell you God's been gracious and good, and he's been good to y'all, and he's given y'all so many. But I'm going to tell you, it took Rosie being sick and tired of Rosie. Hear me when I say this. And being sick and tired of the outcomes, of the familiar, of the comfort that was not a comfort, of the soulless that was not a soulless. It was just what I knew, and even what it made me to be, and the feel and the think and the act and all that. I got sick and tired of that. That became a stench in my nostrils. Can I just be honest? I knew there was more. And the only way that I was going to get to the more, get to the next, get out of, come out of, and get beside what I needed to be beside was if I did it in a way that I'd never done it before. And not only in a way I'd never done it before, but the right way. And the only one that knows what the right way is for you is God. And as you trust that process, and in that process of what God knows for you, not nobody else, then you will begin to come away from, come out of Stop getting next to, stop being beside, stop putting yourself in situations, in circumstances that has the same scenario, same repeat, same outcome. You can write the story on it before you come out of it. The only way to come from that is to get next to what you need to be next to and who you need to be next to. And then God will align everything, every purpose, every intent, every design, every gift. I mean, everything you need to help you to get there. And not only get there, but make it through it and to the next. And not only make it through it and to the next, but even enjoy the process. And when I say enjoy, hear me when I say this. You're going to learn and develop things about you that you never ever expected or thought you were capable to do. And it won't be you. It'll be God. But if you let God be God, He will do it. And here's another thing He's put in my heart to share with you. Don't ask God for help and then you tell Him how to help you. Because if you're telling Him how to help you, you don't need God. You're being God. But when you ask God for help, understand that help ain't going to look nothing like you've ever thought it was ever supposed to look. It ain't going to feel nothing like it has ever felt. You've never felt what it will actually be like in the presence and in the help of what God has for you. It's going to be so different, so liberating, so free, such a delight, such a pleasure, such a joy, so much peace. Not a fight, not a struggle, not a war, not a battle. You won't have no battle scars. You won't come out tattered and torn, smelling like smoke, looking like defeat. Matter of fact, God gonna resurrect you from all that you did go through in the midst of what you did go through because of the company you did keep or the presence of the people that you were in and you had no business of being there, but you were there because you allowed words of others to be walked out and lived out in your life. So listen, you can do this. You will do this, and you gotta do this. But you gotta do it by God's design for you. It's been one thing after another. And if I can be honest with you, because we are in the world but not of it, you're gonna get some stings here and there. You're gonna get kicked here and there as well. You're gonna be shunned. You're gonna be doubted. You're gonna be talked about. You will be lied on. You will be tested. And you know, now a test from God is different from a test of the world, okay? And so right now I'm talking about what the world's going to try to do to you. Even people, those that you love that are close to you, okay? Because all they've known is really you. But they don't see you as God sees you. Now some do and some will. But don't expect it to be the people that you want to count on. Let it be God, those who God has already put in place for you to help you, okay? So with that being said, your life is worth investing in, and the outcome of the investment will be the assets that God has for you and not liability, okay? A liability is something that nobody wants to really have an account when it comes to trying to build something, because a liability, it takes away. An asset adds to. You will be an asset to the kingdom, number one, and certainly for your life and the purpose in which you're supposed to fulfill. Okay? And so, do you believe what others have said about you? If you have believed that and you still believe that and it doesn't align with who God created you to be, you need to oust that. You need to get that so far away from you and your memory bank, your spirit man, your heart, your thoughts. And God will assist and help you do that. Okay? But you got to start believing, number one, what He says about you and what He's purposed for you. And then you got to start speaking those things regarding you. And anything or anyone that speaks contrary to that, guess what? Protect yourself. Watch the company you keep, the places you go. Because until you get girded up and you know how to stand firm on a foundation that God wants to lay in your life, you need to make sure you watch what you do, when you do it, and how you do it, and who you do it with. And that includes even you, if you're even alone. Because even you being alone and you on your own, you do things that could harm you just as deadly as someone else can. Just as poisonous and venomous as someone else can. So this is not really about watching the people. It's about you watching you. Making sure you give an account to what you need to give an account to and what you don't need to add to you in your life. Maybe it's removing some things. Getting clarity. Okay? Disowning certain things that you've taken on in your life, over your life, for your life. Disassociate yourself. There's nothing wrong with that, especially when you're on a different pathway for purpose and pursuing it. So, how many traps have you fallen into because of what I previously spoke about? And even when you get it right, you still may find yourself in a situation. But the thing about it, you know you don't need to remain, and you don't have to remain, and you don't want to remain, and you will not remain. So it's not about being perfect, but it's about being perfected. It's about moving away from what doesn't need to be and should have never been into what needs to be and what has been purpose for you. And you got to learn that and learn the difference. So how do we fall into traps? We fall into traps. Number one, let's think about some of the scenarios that has taken place in your life. We've talked about that already. So I see Miss Rochelle, God bless you, beautiful. You said your blessings. It says yes, blessings and more grace to you, sister friend. Just continue to trust God, for God will bless you to excel beyond measure. Amen. Love you. And I love you too, beautiful. And the same words of life and seed that you just spoke to me, I speak them back to you in even greater in abundance for your life, favor upon you. And you continue to excel and trust God as well, beautiful, because God definitely has more for you. And anybody on this live that is listening in, God's got more for you. And then you said, yes, trust God. Trust God's outcome, purpose, and plan for your life. I do not have any other options. I don't want it any other way. We can't have choices and options. But some things, especially when God has brought you through, some things should never ever be an option no more. It should never be a desire nor a choice. Now, it doesn't mean that it won't come back as a temptation, because it can. But for me, like what you said, continue to trust God and his outcome, his purpose, his plan for my life. Man, married to it. Married to it. And I want to be married to that, to the purpose and the plan of God, even when it looks different from my plans, my purpose that I may have, even if they're good. But if it ain't God, I really don't want it. I don't want the taste for it. I don't want the desire for it. I don't want the leading of it. I don't want any of it. I don't. Because I know it's going to delay me and further keep me from what God's good and perfect will and plan is for me. And because I've lived the opposite of that for so long, for so many years, and it worked against me and even against others, I don't want that. That's no longer a desire for me. I don't crave that. And if my flesh begins to try to rear up, guess what? My fleshly man has to be, has to die. The flesh must die. And the spirit man in me is what's going to live and rule. And so what are we feeding? What are we feeding most? Our flesh man or our spirit man? What do we cultivate most on a daily basis? Do we feed our flesh or do we feed our spirit man? And how we do this is by what consumes our time. What we invest in, how we invest in it. You know, the music we listen to, the television programs we listen to, the places we visit. Do we take time to sit and educate ourselves on good material, books, information, knowledge? Do we take time to go into different studies, areas of studies? Even if you've never gone to school before, that's an option for you. There are so many programs, even free educational training. You can go on Google or YouTube and educate yourself about something. So I say that to say that may be part of the process and the plan that you need to take the initiative to start out to do, to better you. And so I spoke about what God did some years ago. Even today, there are things that I have to do daily. And I get a break. Yeah, we need break. We need to rest. It's not always about, but guess what? How bad do you want it? I used to look at my mother's like, man, do it take all that? Because I didn't want to invest that. I wasn't willing to do that. Because I saw, number one, some of the mistreatment that came her way, misunderstanding. And then some of the things that she even put on herself. And I didn't want to sign up for that. Some of you guys have been looking at other people's lives and you've been basing your life off of their lives. No, your life is different. You're different. You don't hold their names. You don't hold the titles they hold. And when I say title, just who you are. You don't, some of the rewards that they had, you don't have those. You have maybe greater rewards and benefits, but you'll never know until you stop looking at what was and what may be right now. But look to the hills of what should be and can be and what God desires. And so as I begin to wrap this up, does there seem to be a repeat of actions that is taking place in your life, whether by your hands, your actions, or the actions of others? And Rochelle, you said there is no other option. Only God can put your life in order because his plan is the ultimate plan, period. You said it. There is no other option. His plan is the ultimate plan. And if you don't believe that, no matter what you do and how you do it and how you try to do it, I promise you, it'll land you back to God's plan being the ultimate plan, and that nobody can do it. I don't care how much money they have, fame, status, notoriety, how popular they are. Only God. Only God. Don't quit putting people on pedestals. Quit pursuing situations and things. Pursue God. It's okay to honor and show regard, but reverence and just the proper position and placement of where it needs to be, God first. And then let him show you. And you glean from him. And you always keep that reverence on him first, okay? So when you don't voice your opinion and facts and known desires about you to others, then what they tend to say rests upon you. So until you find your words and know the right words that's to define your life and your purpose and plan according to Jeremiah 29:11 for your life, you will take on the seeds, the words, the ideas, the notions, and portions of a purpose of what people desire, their portion for your life, their beliefs for you and your life, even your beliefs that may not be the proper beliefs. So you got to understand what is it I need to believe in? What is it that my life is lacking, that I've missed out on, that I need to understand and gain a better perspective? So as long as you go along, you will play along with their notions and beliefs, their ideas and their plans. It's time that all of us stop going along with the world, with what we see on television, what the latest statement, what the latest fad, what the latest news, all of that. Because people are lost. People will pull things out of situations, of what happened, and they will fabricate it to make it out to be what they want it to be, just to gain ears, eyes, popularity, votes, likes, whatever. And you cannot be following that. You got to figure up, allow what God's blueprint is for you in your life and begin to run with that. And try and do your best to not get off course. Stay the course. And if you get off course, get back on course. We all have an aligned destiny that has strategies set up for us that are very strategic, purposeful, planned. But we have to do it God's way. And you're not going to be alone when you do it his way. He has things already waiting on you. So where you at right now, I want to tell you and encourage you and let you know that you are enough because God is enough. And if you do it his way, he will assist you in that way, okay? In his way. Because it's the ultimate plan, like Rochelle said. So how are you living? If you're not happy right now with how you've been living and how you're living, then guess what? Figure out what you need to do to change the course, change the direction, so that your outcome can be much better than what it has been, because you deserve it. And there's nothing that you do or can do that says that you deserve it or you don't deserve it. It's already been established. So everything that we do deserve, whether we accept it or embrace it or not, whether we obtain it or not, whether we're fully walking in it, it's for us, because God is for us. So we got to understand that if he's more than the world for us, it does not matter who's been against us or who will come up against us or who's against us right now. That doesn't matter. We have focused too long on the wrong things. And when we focus on the wrong things, that clouds our judgment. It takes up too much space in our mind. Listen, I don't know about you, but I don't have time for all that. I don't. I can't give an account for all of that. That's just too much weight for me. It's too weighty. It's too meaty. It is. And meaty means you're going to be chewing on something that you will never ever digest to the smallest particle of what it needs to be consumed. And instead, what you're doing is wasting your efforts and your energy and your muscles, your time, your resources, your finances, your thoughts on trying to digest something that you'll never be able to digest. And then you will swallow it whole, in which it'll never, and I'm just using a metamorphosis, okay? Stay with me. Then you're going to digest something whole that you never allowed to be broken down with the enzymes process to be able to digest it and fully take it in, that it be nutrient and nutritious and good for your body parts, for every body part in you, because everything works together, one body. But we have many organs, we have many systems that all function differently. But guess what? The functionality of all those systems, all those organs, the blood, the cell, the molecular level, everything about our bodies, it all works as one. And when one thing is out of alignment because one other thing didn't do right, and then the other thing continues to not do right, it's going to start affecting every part of our body, every parts of our bodies. And then at some point, our bodies are going to give out. Systems are going to start shutting down. And I rebuke that in the name of Jesus, because we speak in life. But I'm telling you what the opposite of life, which is death, does. And death doesn't happen overnight. Death takes a process. There's a process in death. Even when it leads up to a natural death, there's been a process of it. And even death in a marriage, death in a relationship, death in you where you stop living. You're oppressed, you're depressed. You don't see a hope, a glimpse of glory. You don't see nothing. It didn't start out overnight. But this is why we got to recognize the words and the seeds and the things that have been spoken over us, and that you speak to yourself and that you partake in. Because ultimately it's all about what you do and what you permit and what you allow. Me too. So until we change these things, we will continue to take in what we can. And so for anybody to want you to be burdened down by a weight of theirs that they won't even reckon, hear me when I say this, what do you look like trying to be somebody's God or let somebody be your God, and you ain't figured out who God is for you and how to let God reverence over your life? And this is what the enemy wants to keep us distracted in. This is why the body of Christ, the church, can't get it right. Because we don't respect the process. We don't understand why God has certain people in position. And when we want to sit back and we want their position, but we don't know what they did for God to put them. And I can guarantee you this. Anybody that God has put in a position, most times, 9 times out of 10, they didn't want it. They didn't want it, but God chose them. You got to be careful of people that want position. Oh, give me a title. Oh, I'm this and I'm that. Because there's a weight to that. There's a price to that. There's a price tag to that. It ain't for you to get in there and sit and look all good and be glorified and feel special, feel wanted, feel needed. Like the people, they need me. Are they not going to be able to do this or do that without me? We are nothing without God. And when we put ourselves in a position, nothing around us will grow. Us except God build the church. We all labor in vain. So if we cannot get in there and honor people, respect, number one, God, and then the position and the authority that God put them in, then our hearts are wrong. And where did our heart go wrong? How did it go wrong? Remember, it don't start off like we see it. There's been some seeds laid dormant and hidden that we didn't address. We didn't get a handle of. We didn't understand. We didn't get things right. And so, listen, I say that to say this. Focus on self. Focus on you. Allow God to show you his plan, what he desires for you and what he has for you. And everything else, leave it alone. Yeah, we pray about things, and we don't pray our will, we pray God's will. But we got to start showing up being a blessing and not a hindrance and not a curse. Bringing goodness, God's goodness, and not wickedness and evilness. And until we can get things right, and we're not perfect, but we will be perfected as we continue to allow God to perfect those things with us. And our hearts are truly changed. And only by the goodness of God can that happen. God draws all of us through his goodness and his loving kindness. Okay? So I pray I've shared something with you all today to help bless you, encourage you, and to motivate you to watch the words that you speak over yourself and over others, and then watch the words that people speak to you. And if you don't have an understanding, before you let them out your presence, before you hang that phone up, you get an understanding. And once you get an understanding, if all is clear and well, praise God. Good, good. But if it ain't, make sure you state what you know to be true and what you don't receive from them. You hear me? And if you always got to keep going back to somebody and you got to keep clarifying things that they keep saying is different, maybe you need to not communicate with that person for whatever. Time being, season, lifetime, whatever. I don't know. But what I do know is that you don't need to align yourself with anything, any words from anybody. And guess what? Those words can even be in a book. You reading a book, that's something you ain't got no business reading. Are you listening to television? Those things speak life. Are you listening to music? Those things speak life. Those are seeds too. So whatever you need to do to make sure you get the right seeds, the right words, life coming into you, to where you begin to understand and you begin to believe and know. And the main thing is get before God, number one, because without his spirit being the ultimate plan in your life, you don't know what's for you and what's not. You will get confused. You will be double-minded. You will become turned over to a reprobate mind where right becomes wrong and wrong becomes right. So, only way that I was able to make a change was able to come to my life is that I got before God to get an understanding, and I stay before him, and I will remain before him to make sure, because guess what? My knowledge, it'll turn me reprobate as well. It'll confuse me as well. Hear me, my knowledge will. Yours too. Your wisdom, not God's wisdom, but your wisdom of what you think is wisdom and right for you, it will too. If you're in the midst of a group, a company of people, theirs can confuse you too. Yeah, whatever you become a part of, make sure God is the center of that. And if you can't find God in it, you ain't got no business being in it, being a part of it. Okay? Now, with that being said, don't mean things are going to be perfect, because ain't none of us perfect. But is there some perfection going on? Is there some sharpening going on? Is there some building going on? Is there some correcting going on? Is there number one, the main thing, God's love? Is God's love there? Is his love there? Is his love there? Is his love there? Because he's love, okay? So I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you. Have an amazing rest of the week. Be about purpose of what God has purposed you to do. Whatever that is in this season, find out what it is. And God has that anew for you. And if God calls you to it, don't worry about how you're going to get through it. Trust God, because he's going to bring you through it. He's going to get you through it. And so with that being said, Miss Rochelle, you said thank you for your words of encouragement. And it only was, they encouraging, but they were words of comfort and confirmation. So you received words of comfort and confirmation. Some things were confirmed to you about where God has you, beautiful. Listen, Our past is no longer. Man, if I remain in the past, I would be worse off today. I wouldn't be who I am today. So, but I had to come away from the past, because I could no longer be in the present if I remained in the past. And if I remained living from my past in my present, I would have never been able to see the future. So guess what? I'm present. Mind, body, and soul and spirit. I'm present. And guess what? I can see my future. I see my future. I take hold of my future, of what God has for me, purpose for me, and plan for me. And if anytime God brings something up from my past, that means it's something to deal with. Not to go back to it. It's just something I need to, it's time. God said it's time. And I love it when he does that. That just means a new level of walk for me. And I thank God for it. So I don't care what you or we have done in our past, that is no longer. We got to stop living in the past. So I love y'all. God bless y'all. Have an amazing day. And know that the joy of the Lord is your strength. And guess what? If there's no peace, then God is not in it. Okay? If his presence is not there, you don't want to be there. Excuse yourself by any and all means necessary. The Bible says flee temptation. That means chuck it. Run. Run as fast as you can and don't go back. A heart of repentance, true repentance, means you ask for forgiveness, or you remove yourself and you turn away. You don't keep going back. Because when you go back, it's 7 times worse, if not worse. And guess what? The daytime we live in, we ain't got time for that. Don't make time for it. I love you guys. Be blessed and have an amazing week. Bye-bye.